Your conscious experience relies on microscopic cell architecture you never saw. We think neurons are the conductors, but astrocytic networks are actually tuning the orchestra of your mind. They don't just support function. They actively regulate how tightly synchronized different parts of your brain fire together. That is coherence. Imagine a giant radio station signal that needs precise antennas everywhere to stay clear and sharp. These glia act as those dynamic, tiny antennae, fine-tuning local chemistry so the entire cognitive field doesn't dissolve into static noise. The structural arrangement of these glial endfeet essentially dictates if you can achieve integrated awareness or just scattered thoughts. It's a biological mechanism for selfhood far deeper than we ever imagined. The system stability of our brains hinges less on the neurons firing alone than on how their environment is structured. Think of glial cells, specifically astrocytic endfeet, not as passive support ropes, but as hyper-precise governors controlling local energy flow and chemical timing around every vessel. When these structures organize correctly, they allow microcircuits to achieve a stable coherence, a unified signal across vast areas of the cortex. This is where reactive gliotransmission steps in. Molecules like D-serine are released exactly when needed to tune NMDA receptors, ensuring synchronized oscillation happens at peak efficiency. The structural wiring itself dictates whether we experience isolated chatter or integrated field awareness. It gets wild when you zoom in close enough. We thought of neural networks as orchestras where neurons were all the virtuoso musicians creating the music. But what if the structure itself is the conductor? The astrocyte isn't just plumbing, it's an intricate architectural regulator. Think of its endfeet like microscopic tuning forks coordinating the metabolism across entire cortical fields. This structural precision, the astrocytic endfoot organization and cortical field coherence, is how deep thought achieves phenomenal unity. It dictates the very stability of your selfhood within that moment, which means something nobody expected for understanding integrated consciousness yet. We always thought of neurons as the star players, but what if they are just orchestra members playing against a conductor we overlooked? The astrocytes, those supporting cells, aren't passive scaffolding. They regulate the entire performance by controlling metabolic timing and synchronizing local activity like tuning a massive radio signal. Their intricate structure governs network stability itself. This mechanism, mediated through gliotransmission, dictates whether your brain experiences integrated field coherence or noise. But some researchers argue that this structural control is an oversimplification of dynamic electrical signaling pathways. The true computational regulator might be something entirely different. We have to see how these architectural rules shape the architecture of self next. We always thought neurons were running the show, the conductors of consciousness. But what if they are just musicians? The real orchestra is run by glia. Specifically, astrocytes aren't passive plumbing. Their structural layout dictates how information flows across entire brain regions. Think of it like wiring a massive quantum computer. Tiny changes in connection topology change everything about its function. Astrocytes modulate network excitability using gliotransmission, stabilizing the precise timing needed for high-amplitude gamma coherence. That signature rhythm we associate with deep awareness. The signal fires through the neuron, but what happens next? What is that reactive glial modulation actually to create a unified field of experience is still completely hidden from us? What if everything we thought was happening inside the brain, the coherent feeling of selfhood, isn't purely electrical? Imagine your brain like a vast radio station, and you assume the neurons are the DJs. But what if the glial cells, those surrounding scaffolding structures, aren't just walls? They are actually tuning systems that decide which frequencies can even broadcast at all. We thought these networks were passive supports for the firing synapses. A massive shift is emerging. Astrocytic organization itself determines how organized your experience can be. It means structural architecture isn't supporting consciousness, it might be conducting it. But if those glial cells are regulating this unified field awareness, what specific code defines that perfect resonance? The biggest mistake in mapping the mind has been assuming neurons are running the show alone. Imagine an orchestra where the conductor isn't just signaling, they are actively modulating every instrument's internal state. That regulator is glial tissue. Astrocytes don't simply support brain function. Their precise architectural arrangement dictates whether your thoughts resolve into a unified field of awareness or drift apart. This relationship between local cellular geometry and global subjective coherence points to astrocyte-driven network excitability, the physical mechanism behind moments of profound realization. It tells us that stability isn't just biological, it's systemic design. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. It turns out the brain isn't just a firing grid of neurons, it's an incredibly complex orchestra. And astrocytes are conductors ensuring perfect timing across every section. They regulate local chemistry to keep vast networks synchronized into those cohesive states we call awareness. The takeaway here is simple. When you seek deeper clarity or integrated experience, look beyond the synapse. Pay attention to how your internal support structures, your biological regulators, are organized for coherence. This structural organization directly shapes phenomenal reality itself. That shift from isolated firing units to a dynamically regulated network is where consciousness lives. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.